I still remember the way she looked at me that night. We were sitting in my small apartment, eating instant noodles because that's all I could afford back then. She was scrolling through her phone, barely paying attention to what I was saying about my dreams and plans. Then she sighed deeply, put her phone down, and said those words that sliced straight into my chest. "I'm only with you until someone richer comes along. You know that, right?" I stared at her, thinking she was joking. But her face was blank, her eyes cold. At that moment, everything inside me felt like it broke. I wanted to ask her why she was even here with me if she felt that way. I wanted to beg her to stay and promise her the world. But I didn't. Something in me died that night, and I realized no matter how much I loved her, I couldn't force her to love me back. I left her apartment without saying another word. It was raining heavily, and I didn't even care that I was getting soaked. I just walked and walked, feeling like my heart was too heavy to carry. That night, I slept in my friend's living room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the times she made me feel like I wasn't good enough. I thought about the little humiliations, the insults disguised as jokes, the way she would compare me to men with better cars and bigger bank balances. I felt like nothing. But somewhere in that darkness, I made a promise to myself. I promised that I would never let anyone make me feel worthless again. I promised that I would work so hard that one day, I'd look back at this pain and smile. 3 years passed by in a blur of sleepless nights, failures, and small victories. I worked 3 jobs at a time, started a small online business that everyone laughed at, and reinvested every rupee I earned. Slowly, everything began to change. My business grew bigger, my confidence returned, and I started feeling like myself again. Until one rainy evening, as I was driving my brand new BMW to my office, I saw a figure sitting on the pavement near the same apartment we once shared. Her hair was messy, her clothes torn, her eyes empty. It was her. The same woman who once told me she was only with me until someone richer came along. She looked up at my car with tears in her eyes, and in that moment, a storm of emotions filled my chest. But what did I do then? Did I stop to help her, or did I drive away without a word, remembering all the pain she caused me? You'll find out everything in the next part. I sat there in my car for a few seconds, watching her through the tinted window. The rain was falling hard, and each drop blurred my view of her face, but I could still see enough to know she was shivering. She looked nothing like the confident girl I once knew. Back then, she always wore branded clothes, expensive perfumes, and makeup that made her look perfect. She never stepped out without making sure every strand of her hair was in place. But now, sitting there on the wet pavement, she looked like a shadow of her old self. As I watched her, memories started flashing in my mind. I remembered the first day we met at the local grocery store. I was working as a cashier, tired after my college classes, and she came in wearing a simple blue dress. She smiled at me when I packed her groceries, and that smile lit up my entire week. We started talking casually whenever she came by. She was beautiful, smart, and confident. I couldn't believe my luck when she agreed to go out for tea with me. For months, I felt like the happiest man alive. I'd save money just to buy her small gifts or take her to the places she liked. But slowly, things changed. She started making small comments about my income. She laughed when I told her I wanted to start my own business one day. She used to say, "Dreams are cute, but you need money to survive." At that time, her words used to hurt, but I ignored them because I loved her so much. I thought one day she'd see how hard I worked and how loyal I was to her. But I was wrong. She never cared about my loyalty. She only cared about what she could get from me. And when I didn't have anything left to give, she showed me who she really was that night. Sitting in my car, I wondered what had happened to her in these 3 years. Where were those rich men she was waiting for? Where was her dream life? Did they leave her too, just like she left me? A part of me felt sorry for her because no matter what she did, seeing her like that wasn't easy. But another part of me felt nothing. I thought about everything I went through after she broke me. The lonely nights, the tears, the failures. All of that pain turned me into the man I was today. The millionaire she never thought I could become. But what was I supposed to do now? Should I open my car door and offer her a ride, or should I drive away and leave her to her fate? My heart was pounding so hard that I could hear it echoing in my ears. I knew that whatever I did next would change both of our lives forever. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, staring at her through the rain. My mind was spinning with so many thoughts that I couldn't focus. I thought about how life was back then. How she'd complain about the smallest things, the slow Wi-Fi in my old apartment, the cheap shampoo I bought, the fact that my shoes weren't branded. She always found ways to remind me that I wasn't enough for her standards. Even when I tried to surprise her with flowers or wrote her small notes, she'd laugh and say, "These childish things won't pay my bills." I thought about those moments now, sitting in my luxury car, and wondered how the same girl who chased wealth was sitting alone on the street, drenched and hopeless. But as I sat there, watching her, another memory came flooding back. I remembered my friend Samir warning me about her. He told me, "She's not with you for love, bro. She's with you because she thinks you might become something one day. And if you don't, she'll leave you." I got angry with him that day for saying that about her. I thought he was just jealous. But looking at her now, I realized he saw what I refused to see back then. I wondered if Samir was right about other people too. Maybe I needed to rethink who I kept close in my life. While I was lost in my thoughts, a knock on my car window brought me back to reality. I jumped slightly and turned to see my assistant, Arif, standing there with an umbrella. He looked concerned and said, "Sir, we're getting late for the investor dinner. Is everything okay?" I looked at him, then back at her sitting in the rain. I could see Arif's eyes follow my gaze, and he instantly understood. "Do you know her, sir?" he asked quietly. I didn't respond, but I could see curiosity all over his face. Arif had been working with me since I started my company. He saw my struggles, the nights I slept in the office, the days I skipped meals to save money for product development. He knew my story, but he didn't know her part in it. I could see my driver checking the rearview mirror, probably wondering why we weren't moving. The traffic light ahead turned green, then red again. Cars behind us honked, but I didn't care. My mind was battling with my heart. One part of me wanted to get out, give her money, and drive away forever, ending this chapter with dignity. The other part wanted to ignore her completely, to prove to myself that I no longer cared. But deep inside, I knew either choice would erase the pain she caused me. As I sat there, thinking about what to do, she suddenly looked up and our eyes met through the rain. Her lips parted as if she recognized me, and in that single moment, everything I'd buried for years rose back to the surface, threatening to break me all over again. For a moment, everything felt silent between us despite the noise of cars, rain, and city life around. Her eyes locked onto mine, wide with shock and something else, regret maybe. She slowly stood up from the pavement, using the wall to support herself. Her hands were trembling, and I could see how weak she had become. The confident girl I once loved was now gone, replaced by someone I could barely recognize. I felt a lump form in my throat as memories of her laughter, her perfume, and the way she used to hold my hand under the table during dinner dates came flooding back. It hurt more than I expected. She started walking towards my car, her steps unsteady on the wet road. My assistant Arif shifted uncomfortably outside, glancing between her and me, probably wondering if he should stop her from coming closer. But I raised my hand slightly, signaling him to stay back. I wanted to see what she would say. She reached my window, drenched and shivering, and knocked softly with her knuckles. I pressed the button to lower it just enough to hear her voice. For a few seconds she didn't say anything. She just stood there, her eyes filling up with tears that mixed with the rain on her face. Finally she whispered, "It's really you, isn't it?" I didn't answer her. I couldn't. My throat felt tight. She looked down at the ground, took a deep shaky breath, then looked back up at me with desperate eyes. Please help me. I haven't eaten properly in days. I don't have anywhere to go. I'm sorry for everything I did. I was stupid. I didn't know what I was losing. Her voice cracked as she spoke, and her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Watching her break down like that should have given me satisfaction. This was the girl who told me to my face that I wasn't enough for her, that she would leave me for someone richer. But instead of feeling proud or victorious, I felt hollow inside. My assistant, still holding the umbrella, whispered under his breath, "Sir, we're really getting late. Investors are waiting." I knew he was right. This dinner was important. It could open doors for my company's expansion. But for some reason, I couldn't move. My mind was filled with anger, pity, pain, and memories all crashing against each other at once. She reached out to touch my car door, her fingers red and freezing. "Please, just give me a chance to talk. I don't want money. I just need help." At that moment, my driver turned back and asked softly, "Sir, should I drive away?" My chest felt tight. Everything I had worked for, all the pain I'd buried, all the dreams I chased, were standing right in front of me in the form of the girl who once crushed me. What was I going to do now? My heart pounded as I looked into her pleading eyes, knowing that whatever choice I made next would define the man I had become. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. Before I could say anything, I noticed a man running towards her from across the street. He was wearing old torn jeans and a hoodie soaked from the rain. His hair was messy, and his eyes were filled with panic. He reached her side and grabbed her arm roughly, pulling her away from my car. "What did I tell you about begging strangers?" he shouted, his voice loud even through the closed window. She flinched at his touch, her eyes filling with fresh tears as she tried to pull her arm free. "Please don't do this here," she whispered to him desperately. But he ignored her and turned to my car, his eyes narrowing when he realized I was watching them. "Mind your own business," he snapped at me before dragging her away. I felt my blood boil instantly. Seeing someone treat her like that made something inside me twist with anger, no matter what she had done to me in the past. I quickly opened my door and stepped out, ignoring Ariv's shocked expression as he rushed to hold the umbrella over me. The man stopped when he saw me approaching. "What's your problem?" he said, his grip on her tightening. She looked at me with pleading eyes, silently begging me not to say anything. But I couldn't stay quiet. "Let her go," I said, my voice low but firm. He laughed bitterly, showing his yellow teeth. "Who are you, her hero? She owes me money. I feed her. I let her sleep in my place. You think I do that for free?" His words made my stomach turn. I looked at her face and saw pure humiliation. She couldn't even meet my eyes anymore. The man leaned closer to me and whispered, "Unless you want to pay off her debt and take her problems with you, back off." I stood there in the rain, feeling anger and helplessness mixed inside me. This was a twist I never expected. I thought I'd see her and maybe help her out of pity, or ignore her to prove I'd moved on. But now, seeing her trapped like this, treated like nothing, made me feel something I didn't want to admit. Despite everything she did, I couldn't stand watching her being treated like trash. Ariv pulled me slightly, whispering, "Sir, let's go. This isn't your problem anymore." But I couldn't move. The man was still gripping her tightly, and she winced in pain, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about old love or revenge anymore. This was about her survival. About the humanity in me that couldn't ignore someone in pain, no matter who they were. But what was I supposed to do now? Should I pay off her debt and take responsibility for her life again, or walk away and let her face her fate? As the rain poured harder around us, I knew that whatever choice I made now would change my destiny forever. I stood there in the pouring rain, feeling my suit getting soaked, but I didn't care anymore. I looked straight into the man's eyes and said firmly, "How much does she owe you?" He narrowed his eyes at me, scanning me from head to toe, noticing my expensive watch and the luxury car behind me. 50,000 rupees, he said with a smug grin, thinking he had found an easy way to get money. She shook her head quickly, crying harder. "No, he's lying, it's not that much, please don't." But he pulled her closer and barked at her to stay quiet. I signaled Arif to take out my wallet. He quickly pulled out the cash I carried for emergencies. I handed the money to the man without breaking eye contact. Here. This ends today. Let her go. The man counted the money greedily, shoved it into his pocket, and released her arm roughly. She stumbled forward and almost fell, but I caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was weak, freezing, and trembling so hard I could feel her bones shake under her thin clothes. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this for me? She whispered, her voice broken and small. I didn't know what to say. My mind was screaming that she deserved this life for everything she did to me. But my heart refused to listen. I helped her stand straight and signaled Arif to open the car door. She hesitated, looking back at the man who was already walking away counting his money, then at me again. Finally, she climbed into the back seat, curling up in the corner like a scared child. I sat in the front, staring ahead in silence as my driver started the engine. We drove towards my office tower. I called a female staff member I trusted and asked her to prepare food, warm clothes, and a private room for her to rest. When we arrived, Arif helped her out of the car carefully. As we entered the lobby, she grabbed my sleeve lightly and whispered, I don't deserve your kindness. You know that, right? I didn't reply. I just kept walking, feeling my chest heavy with emotions I couldn't name. Hours later, after my investor dinner ended successfully, I returned to her room to check on her. She was asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, looking peaceful for the first time in years. As I stood there watching her, Arif walked in quietly and said, Sir, there's something you should know. I turned to him, confused. He hesitated, then handed me a folded piece of paper he found hidden in her torn bag. I opened it slowly, my hands trembling as I read the words scribbled in faded ink. I still love you. I never stopped. I just didn't want to ruin your life by being your burden. In that moment, everything I thought I knew shattered, leaving me with a truth I never expected. I sat down on the chair beside her, still holding that note in my hand. My heart felt heavy. All these years, I thought she left me because she was selfish and greedy, but reading her words made me realize there was so much I didn't know about her struggles. I watched her breathing softly, her face calm despite everything she had been through. For the first time, I saw her not as the girl who broke my heart, but as a human being who was lost, scared, and alone in this world. When she woke up, she saw me sitting there. Her eyes widened, and tears welled up instantly. She tried to sit up and speak, but I stopped her gently. You don't need to explain anything, I said softly. She shook her head, crying harder. I ruined everything. I destroyed us. I thought if I stayed, I'd hold you back. I thought if I left, you'd finally become the man you were meant to be. And you did. Look at you now. Her voice was filled with pain and pride at the same time. I didn't know what to say. There were no perfect words to fix what was broken between us. All I knew was that I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt peace. Life had given us both what we deserved in different ways. I reached out and held her hand. It was cold and rough, nothing like how it used to feel when she wore her expensive rings and creamy lotions. She looked at our hands and sobbed silently. After a long pause, I stood up and said, I've arranged a place for you to stay temporarily. You'll get proper food and treatment. Arif will handle everything. She cried harder and whispered, Why are you still so kind to me? I smiled faintly and replied, Because I am no longer the man who needs revenge to feel powerful. I am the man who forgives, even if it still hurts. As I walked away from her room that evening, I felt something heavy lift off my chest. Life had brought us back together, not to rekindle what was lost, but to heal what was broken. She once left me to find someone richer. In the end, I became rich in more ways than she ever imagined. Not just in wealth, but in forgiveness, dignity, and peace. And that was worth more than any millions I had in my bank account.